And a lot of times we see on the Facebook groups, I need help with marketing. That's kind of going to like a car dealership that sells a bunch of cars, like a CarMax, and saying, I need a car, right?
Yeah.
It's this like really wide, broad thing. And so what we found is that there's this huge missing gap of therapists knowing that they need marketing, but they jump over to strategy. Well, how does Facebook ads work? Or tell me how to do SEO. What should I put on my website? And they really miss the middle, which is the foundation, right? Learning to niche their ideal client, understanding how to write marketing messages, communicate to the ideal client so it draws them in. And so we've just become super passionate about that.
This is the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer. This is session number 51 of the Practice of Therapy podcast. Hello, folks. I'm your host, Gordon Brewer, and I'm so glad you've made the choice to join me today. I'm a little froggy for some reason, I guess just allergies or whatever, so I apologize for the gravelly voice. But anyway, I'm glad you found us here. If this is the first time you're listening to the podcast, welcome, and hope you'll come back, and please subscribe by hitting a subscribe button wherever you might be listening to the podcast, whether it be on iTunes or in Stitcher or Google Play or Spotify, just to name a few. But anyway, so glad you've joined me here. You know, this is, I have to laugh a little bit because I was getting ready to record this intro to this podcast episode and couldn't get my microphone to work. And I had gone away for the weekend, or went away this past weekend, and I'll tell you a little bit about that trip because it's pretty exciting stuff. But anyway, couldn't get it to work. And then finally, it's just kind of like, turn the microphone on. So anyway, went through that for about 15, 20 minutes, wasting time trying to figure out why it wasn't working. And then it dawned on me that got to turn the switch on, dummy. So anyway, glad you've joined me here. So this past weekend, I had the great pleasure or privilege to be able to go hear Michael Hyatt down in Nashville. And if those of you that might don't know about Michael Hyatt is really kind of a productivity guru. He's really one of those people that's my go-to people when I want to learn about leadership and being more productive. And I've started using his planner called the Full Focused Planner. And it's really helping me get better organized and really more focused in what I'm doing, and not only in my practice, but with the practice of therapy. And so also got to hear Amy Porterfield live as well. She was part of this conference, which, because Amy and Michael were there, I decided it was worth my trip down there. It's I live about 4 hours from Nashville, even though I'm in Tennessee. I'm up in the northeast corner. But anyway, it was just I'm just still just kind of looking at my notes this morning and kind of soaking it in. And I guess one of the big takeaways I got from that conference that I'd like to share with you, and this is really kind of a good segue into this podcast episode, my interview with Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux, and I'm going to tell you a little more about them here in a minute. But, one of the things that I think we always overlook, and you hear this theme from me a lot, is really kind of understanding your purpose and your why. Really getting a handle on, if you're going to go into private practice or go into any business, for that matter, is to really have a lot of clarity around why you want to do that and what are your goals around doing that. And I think for most of us in private practice, we go into it out of a sense of, we want to serve others, obviously, on the front end. Hopefully that's one of your whys. If not, you might ought to be looking for a different career. But anyway, we want to serve people. We want to help people. But the other part of that is really, I think for most people, is that we want the independence and freedom that being in private practice can give us. In other words, being able to set our own schedules, set up the kind of, see the kind of clients we want to see and the ones that we enjoy working with. And so I think that is, you not only hear that from me, but if you'll take a look around or listen around, like I said, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and that was a big theme I heard from Michael Hyatt, and really this whole conference that I went to that really focused on how to bring clarity to what you're doing in your life, and then using the tools that he has. So I'll just leave that thought with you. One of the things I do want to let you know about is I still have a few slots left in my mastermind group, and we've gotten off to a good start and a good group of people, and I'd love to have you join me for that, especially if you're in that growing phase of private practice. You've maybe started your private practice, and you're really trying to figure out where to focus your time and where to focus in order to grow and to be successful and sustainable in your practice. So get in touch with me on that. You can go over to practiceoftherapy.com/mastermind, and you can fill out the application there, and we'll set up a time pretty quickly to try to get you so that we can have a conversation to see if it is going to be a good fit for you. The other thing I would invite you to do is just go over and take a look at my resources page. And I'm constantly updating that and putting some new things out there, getting a lot of people that are interested in the session note helper that I developed, but you can find that at sessionnotehelper.com. But anyway, go over to, when you go to the website, practiceoftherapy.com, and just click on cool resources link there in the menu, and you can take a look at those resources I've got on there. So, and I'm going to be sharing with you some other resources that Kate and Katie have available here as we get started with them. So today's guests, I've got Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux, and if you don't know about them, you need to find out about them. They're another cohorts of mine in this whole private practice consulting, education, learning realm, whatever we call it. We ought to come up with a name for this niche. But anyway, they are so much fun, and I was so happy that Katie reached out to me, and we started talking about our podcasts, and they have the private practice startup podcast, and I'll have links in the show notes. And they are just so fun, and they are really kind of their superpower in this whole realm is really getting a handle on your marketing and coming up with a good marketing plan, and one that makes sense for you and your practice and that fits you and your personality. So without further ado, here is Kate and Katie. Well, welcome again, folks, to the Practice of Therapy podcast. And I am pretty excited about my new good friends, Kate and Katie. And if you listen to podcasts like I listen to podcasts, they are no strangers to you. They have the private practice startup podcast, and I would really recommend it to you because it's one of the better ones out there. And I'm just so glad you all are here with me, Kate and Katie.
Thanks, Gordon. We're happy to be here.
Yeah.
What a great introduction. Thank you so much. That's so kind. See, that just speaks to your Southern. We're friends already, right?
Yeah. We were the hospitality.
That's right. It was funny. We were talking about that earlier, and that Kate and I are both from kind of North Carolina originally, and so it's always a Southern thing when you start talking about where you're from and who you're kin to and all that.
Y'all might hear my Southern accent come out.
Yeah, well, that's good. Y'all bring it on.
Listen up, y'all.
Yeah, bring it on. Another thing that's a Southern thing is I always say we're going to have a big time.
Time.
Have a big time. So, well, Kate and Katie, tell me or tell us a little bit about your private practice journey and how you've landed where you've landed and all of that great stuff.
Awesome. I guess I'll jump in. We'll take turns so we're not talking at the same time. And so this is Kate speaking, just in case you guys don't know my voice, because you might not. Katie and I have been business partners for a while now. We both have 2 separate private practices. Mine's in East Fort Lauderdale in sunny South Florida, and hers is in Coral Springs. So my private practice journey, when I was in the master's program, as I was graduating, I knew that I wanted to create a group private practice, and I knew that I wanted to get into private practice right away. And I also was going to work in community mental health to be able to get my hours. And so I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and they've instilled like a drive in me, a hunger, and ambition. And I was just so ready to get into private practice and start making a difference and, really impacting the world. I was so excited about that. And I didn't realize how hard it was to actually launch a business. And I had being that I come from a family of entrepreneurs, you'd think I'd have a lot of information and I know a lot more about business. I didn't go to school for business. I went to school to become a great clinician. So I didn't really have the business and marketing skills that I needed to have at the time. But I got into business anyways and kind of had that field of dreams mentality. That's what I like to call it. If I build it, they will come. And so when I first got into private practice, I realized, wow, this is a lot harder than I anticipated. And, the clients weren't running through the door. I had my beautiful office and furniture and business cards, and I was starting to network and things like that. But I quickly learned that I really didn't know a lot about business, and I needed to go on a journey of learning as much as possible. Really fell in love with learning about business and entrepreneurship and especially marketing over the years. And as I learned along my own journey, I got into private practice. It was about 12, 13 years ago at this point. Then I launched a group practice. And it was always my dream to have a group practice where other clinicians could come that are really passionate about what they do and committed to the profession and specialize in different areas. And so we have Bayview Therapy. It's a group practice. We have 15 clinicians at the office now. And it's awesome. I love our environment. The team is just so phenomenal. I'm actually here now, just was seeing clients earlier, and I'll be seeing clients later this afternoon. And then over the years, I just attracted many other people naturally who were wanting to know, how did you build what you built? How did you build this successful group practice? And can you coach me? Can you help me? And I was really enjoying that aspect of the business coaching as well as seeing clients, kind of having the balance of both. Meanwhile, Katie and I were working together, and as we were president and vice president of the Broward Association for Marriage and Family Therapy down here in South Florida, and we resurrected the chapter. And so we learned over those 3 years that we worked excellent together in business and really collaborated, and just we both had different strengths that we bring to the table, and we worked so well together that we decided to go into business together. First, we were focusing a little broader and doing trainings for mental health professionals across the state of Florida. And then she was also loving the private practice stuff. And so we really fell in love more with the private practice journey and inspiring clinicians from startup to mastery, which is why we launched the private practice startup when we did back in 2016. So since then, we've been on this journey, and I don't want to talk too much, Katie. I want to create space for you to share your story as well. But I was trying to kind of tie us both there together. Yeah,
that's great. That's great. What's fun, what's interesting as I hear people's stories is that a lot of people, start out in that that agency work and realize, okay, it doesn't fit my lifestyle. But because so Kate, tell us a little bit about you. I mean, Katie. You guys are going to confuse me because So
we'll answer anyways. It's so funny. I actually got an email from Daniel Fava, who actually is Create My Therapist website today. And he's like, Katie, ? I never know who's responding. And I was like, I always forget my name because we're just one and the same.
Yeah. So Katie, tell us about your private practice journey.
So I did my 11 and a half year sentence term in nonprofit. But actually, yes, I say that I grew up in nonprofit because when I moved here to South Florida after graduating my undergrad and starting graduate program here at Nova, I worked in community mental health. But very early on, I knew that I didn't want to be out in the homes till late nights. So I actually went into management and leadership at age 26. And so then the rest of the time I was in management. So, even though I joke about doing the full term sentence and nonprofit, it taught me so much. You usually work with the most difficult clients. You learn how to, as a manager, audit charts. You learn about billing. So it was just such a wealth of experience. And interestingly enough, is I thought I was going to live and die in nonprofit. And it was my staff that began to say, you're too good to be here. You should be in private practice. And they just kept feeding me this information. And I started to listen. And so for me, whenever I decide to do something that I'm deathly afraid to do, is I just start telling people I'm going to do it. Because for me to tell someone I'm going to do something and not follow through, that is not me. If I tell me privately and I don't do it, no one else knows. So I started telling people I was going to go into private practice and then I was going to leave. And so I actually launched my private practice in 2010, but I didn't actually leave full-time work until 2012. I knew that I needed to, I don't know if it was in a dream or something, or I just kept hearing about SEO. So I knew I needed SEO. I knew I needed a website. I found someone who did SEO. And interestingly enough, he was the brother of a clinician that I had worked with. So I felt pretty comfortable with him. And he told me how easy it was to do. And when he was explaining, I was like, I don't know what you're doing. Can I hire you? So I knew early on that I needed to outsource the things I didn't love. And so even though I made a ton of mistakes along the way, trying to figure it out, marketing, doing whatever LinkedIn marketing and doing the Facebook ads that I had, no idea doing at the time, doing all this networking, it was exhausting. But eventually through all that trial and error, I was able to keep things very consistent and nowadays, Kate and I both work with couples, and very niche down. And honestly, my private practice runs itself. I just answer the calls, I schedule the people, and that's about it. So, and see clients. So that's kind of been our journey. Creating the private practice, we really looked at, like Kate said, we initially went wide, and then we practiced what we preached, right, and niche down. And so we really love talking about marketing because we looked at what are therapists really needing. And a lot of times we see on the Facebook groups, I need help with marketing. That's kind of going to a car dealership that sells a bunch of cars, like a CarMax, and saying, I need a car. Right. It's this really wide, broad thing. And so what we found is that there's this huge missing gap of therapists knowing that they need marketing, but they jump over to strategy. Well, how does Facebook ads work? Or tell me how to do SEO. What should I put on my website? And they really miss the middle, which is the foundation, right? Learning to niche their ideal client, understanding how to write marketing messages, communicate to the ideal client so it draws them in. And so we've just become super passionate about that. And we've gone on a long journey of many years and really just putting it full force these last a year and a half, 2 years of really learning all we can about marketing and sales. And so that's where we are at today. So we're getting really excited to launch our e-course and just really help a ton of therapists. And, and I'm sure you get this, Gordon, too, about the feedback of the podcast. We got an email 2 weeks ago and someone saying I've created my whole practice based off your podcast. And it was just wow, really, I know we share information and I didn't realize how impactful that is. So we're so excited for this next part.
Yeah, it's and that's been my experience too, is just, I hear from people all the time, when it comes down to it, you can do all the systems and do all the things which are necessary. We need to do that. I mean, it's just these last two episodes of the podcast as we were talking about ahead of time have been with Mike McAllowitz, and his superpowers are, just understanding the financial side of small business and putting the systems in place to have your business run like clockwork, which is his new book. But the thing that I hear over and over again is, how do we market? I'm marketing, and that's where people feel I guess the biggest pain point is you've got to have the revenue in your practice, and the way you have the revenue is to bring in more clients. And the way you bring in more clients is you've got to market it. You've got to let people know what you provide. And the whole niche thing too, that was one of the topics in my mastermind group today was, the importance of creating a niche to where people can find you. So lay it on us here. Tell us about marketing.
Oh boy, where do we start? Well, one of the things Kate was talking about her field of dreams, and very funny this morning, I had supervision with my interns, and my intern asked, she said, should I rent a full office for myself, or should I rent space from someone else? And I was just quiet for a little bit, and I looked at her and I said, are you asking me for the straight answer, the down and dirty? Because I'm going to give it to you that way. And I said, it doesn't make sense to do that. I said, that is one of the mistakes therapists make, especially early on, is they want to jump and get this office and fully furnish it and even carry financing on furniture and things like that. And, Kate talks about the field of dreams mentality, right? If you build it, they will come. Well, I have a new phrase now based off this morning, and it's, if you market it right, they will come.
Yes.
And that's what it is. It's if you market it right and you know how to do it. And I said to her, until you know how to market, and you know how to market consistently, and you have, whether it's systems or a team helping you, then I don't recommend, leasing an office for 3 to 5 years. You're stuck, and what if you're not making money? So, when we think about marketing, we really take a step back, right? We take a step back and we have people begin to think about their target market. Even before that, we talk about what's their why. Why do you do what you do? And we're really inspired by Simon Sinek, and getting them connected to their passion, and, really just sitting back and taking time. And part of our process, it really starts with a dream visualization, because we also believe that, your business should be totally in alignment and congruent with your life. And most of us go into private practice because we desire freedom, we desire a certain lifestyle, and we also desire more time with friends, family, or things that we want to be able to do. And that was one thing Kate and I definitely didn't do. We stepped right into business and became a complete slave to the business, working all hours, day, morning, noon, and night. And until we realized, you really have to build your business around your lifestyle, right? You desire your lifestyle and get really
absolutely
that first. So we do a lot of work even before we step into the foundation of marketing.
Yeah. The Southern boy in me is wanting to shout amen.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So, and that's been a theme for me here lately, is just thinking, okay, you want to do a private practice, you've got to start with why. You've got to know why you want to do that. And I think for most people, they want to that's why we go into private practice, is because we want a certain lifestyle. We want the freedom it brings. We want the autonomy it brings, and all of that. So, yeah. So with the marketing piece, what's a good starting place for most people if they're just, they're thinking, okay, I'm going to start my practice. Where do I start marketing, and how do I start doing that?
Kate, you want to jump in, or you want to? Because I was going to talk about we also have, and we'll share this with your audience, our A to Z cheat sheet, the essentials for building and growing a dream practice. But with that comes 5 days of practice building, and there's a goal sheet in there. So we really recommend walking through this process first to begin to get really clear, right? And I don't know, Kate, if you want to talk about target market, ideal client, niche.
Yeah, and just to expand on what Katie's talking about, we really like people to take that step back first, and not, because a lot of times clinicians will, yes, they want to get into private practice because of the freedom, the flexibility. They get to be their own boss, create their own schedule, work with the clients that they love to work with and who they're really passionate about, and not have to see this, vast amount of clients. And so we really help them get clear on creating a solid brand through developing their vision, their mission, their company culture, and really making sure that their brand is in alignment with who they really are, that they, as clinicians and private practitioners, we are our brand, right? And especially for solo practitioners. And so to develop a brand that you feel really good about, that really lets your personality shine and lets you stand apart in the marketplace, that's something that's really important. So we really like to help clinicians get clear on what is their dream for their lifestyle that they want to live, what's their dream practice look like, and then we dive right into all the branding stuff. And after that, that's when we start getting into the marketing. And the first step getting into marketing is getting really clear on who your ideal client is. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people will use the concept ideal client and target market and niche, those three concepts interchangeably. We like to see them very differently, actually. So when you think about the work that you're doing with clients and the clients that you see, that I just saw one yesterday, I left session and I was like, oh my gosh, that was an awesome session. I love working with this client. Mm-hmm. I felt so energized. So when you leave those sessions that you feel energized and excited about and fulfilled, and it's different than other clients that you might see where you might walk away feeling heavier or maybe just kind of like, meh, mm-hmm. I can help this person, but it's not like igniting that fire within me. It's not igniting that calling. So ideal clients are the clients that make you feel most fulfilled and most passionate about what you're doing. And they're who you do your best work with anyways, because that's where your passion really shines. That's who you're called to serve and to really help and make a difference in their life. So we help people get really clear about who their ideal clients are. And your ideal client is going to be the more specific of the target market. So for Katie and I, we work with couples, right? So working with couples, that's our target market. Our ideal client, I like to work with professionals who are really committed to making the changes. And oftentimes they've gone through an affair. So I'm helping them through affair recovery. I also like to work with different types of couples, but really honing in on that specific aspect of the couple that I work with, that would be my ideal client. Those are the clients that I love to work the most with. And then my niche is going to be the actual services that I offer them that are tailored specifically to meet their needs, whether it's couples intensives or a Gottman-informed approach to couples therapy or an EFT informed approach, or offering sessions later in the evening or on the weekends in a couples intensive. So the target market is kind of like the general population. Your ideal client is the clients that you, it's more narrow. You get really clear on that narrow focus of who they are and get a really intimate understanding of who they are, their pain points, their needs, their wants, desires. And then your niche is really the combination of both. It's both your ideal clients and it's how you interact with them and the services that you create to best meet their needs. So that's kind of how we help people get really clear on those different aspects. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of exercises that we have to help clinicians walk through the ideal client worksheet to get really, we actually do a character study. So we get really clear on who they are, their pain points, what's a day in the life of your ideal client like. We get clear on their characteristics, their needs, their wants, their desires. And we really also look at their pain points on 3 different levels, both their external pain points, their internal, and their philosophical. So we take a good examination into this character study so that clinicians can intimately know their ideal clients. Because if you don't know who you're marketing to, you're just marketing to nobody. You're just marketing to the masses, and you're not going to attract the people that you are really wanting to work with. So that's a really key component.
Right. I love that. I love that approach, and I love the way you've conceptualized that around understanding those differences between your ideal client, your brand, your niche. All of that is just, I can hear in that, and I know that you guys probably listen to the Story Brand podcast as well. And
we love Donald Miller. Yeah.
Yeah. Love him. Maybe we can get him on our podcast.
That'd be great. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Applauding here. So, but yeah, I love that. And again, I think the thing that really kind of resonates with me on this is just really knowing yourself well and knowing what you can best offer to people. I think is a great exercise for anyone.
Yeah, and as you say that, and because Kate and I do so much work and talk on branding, for me, and my kind of quote about branding is, infusing your personal and professional joy, right? And so part of that niche is bringing yourself to the room. And, I when I think about brand, I often think like Laura Long, I think Tiffany McLean, and they stand out as like these very different types of brands, right? They themselves and what they've created. And sometimes that niche is like you, right? Like how you bring that service, like Kate was saying. And it's how do I, because it's so funny, because when Kate and I do some of our webinars and things like that, we share a picture of how we first got started, and we laugh about it because literally, so this is Kate and I have known each other since 2006, and we actually started in licensure supervision together, which I know we didn't say. And interestingly enough, I don't know if like there somewhere was like this, how you should dress for your personal picture, but we looked more like attorneys and our real estate agents. We both had white collared button down shirts and black jackets. And I know my picture was more like, I look like I'm going to kick your butt. Like I'm all like, and it was like, but that's not even who I am, And I also remember just like a few years ago feeling okay enough and free to be like, if I want to wear some dress up jeans to the office, that's more me. For me, I'm much more animated. I bring a lot of humor to the room. And so we also have to align with that within ourselves and bring that, because that's what people love, is they love the authenticity,
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, I know this is getting more into the different ways you can market, but I think that's one of the things that's important about having videos on your website that where people can connect with that. And I know for some people that's kind of intimidating. In fact, that reminds me, I need to update our videos on our website. But anyway, that's what people connect with. They connect with your personality. And that's, if you think about it on a clinical basis, that's the number one thing that you've got to do is align with the client. And I think the more you can do that on the front end to where people feel that connection with you, you're going to like working with those kinds of clients anyway by having that connection.
Yeah, video is such a powerful marketing tool. It really is. I think research shows that it's around 60%. It helps convert with sales about 60%. And it is such a great way for clients or potential clients or referral sources to view you and to imagine what it might be like to work with you, because they get to see you face to face. They get to see your personality come through. They get to look into your eyes and imagine, what is it going to be like to sit across from this person and share with them, my struggles, and have them help me, help guide me towards reaching my goals. So it is a really powerful thing. And yes, a lot of people are intimidated by it. I have been one of those people for sure. And I'm not naturally someone who likes to be in the spotlight. You guys, I don't know, might see me a lot and think, I don't know, might not assume that. But I certainly used to get like deathly afraid of doing videos when we first started. I would be so rigid. My personality wouldn't come through whatsoever. And I was just focused on, creating this perfect video. But the freer that I've gotten, the more confident that I've gotten, the more practice that I've gotten, and just kind of facing that fear and getting better at it, it's my personality's really come out, and I'm okay with the imperfections now, and I've really kind of overcome that. And I encourage those of you who might be nervous to do video to definitely just practice, because it does get better, and it is such a powerful way of reaching people and helping people.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys ever go back and listen to your earlier episodes of your podcast?
What a great question. I don't. I already know how it was, and I'm like, I don't want to go listen back and be like, oh, that was awful.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's so what Kate was saying is, it was reminded me of that, because I went back, I think a few weeks ago, and listened to my first episode, because I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary with the podcast, and it was exciting. And I mean, I think what just thinking about what you just said, Kate, is that I think when we practice and we do it, we become much more comfortable with doing those kinds of things. For those of us that have been doing therapy for a long time, have been in this profession, I can remember back when I first started in it. I mean, just those first few clients, I was so nervous going into a session, and just, you just worry about being, what they're going to think of you and all that sort of thing. And now it's just kind of like, go in and do my thing, and, and don't even really think about it. So
yeah,
I think with the video, it's very much the same thing.
Mm-hmm. It is definitely.
Yeah.
As you share that, like, I feel that anxiety and go to that memory.
Yeah.
Just really quick story. I remember I was a case manager in this program where we worked with adolescent teen substance users, and I graduated, and now I became the therapist, and then was the therapist of this program. And I remember sitting with a family one day, and they're telling me these things, and I said to myself, I was like, okay, I'll make sure I got to tell the therapist this. And then I was like, oh God, I am the therapist. Oh no, it's on me. I'm responsible. I don't know what to do here. And I remember I call them, because I used to work in the restaurant business, the weeds dreams.
Yeah.
Yep. Like you're in the weeds, you forget stuff, and you're driving home. It's like 2 a.m. and you're like, oh my God, table 99 asked for mustard, and I forgot to bring it. So I remember like leaving the sessions and like going through it on my mind, and what didn't I ask? And oh my gosh. So
yeah,
you brought those memories up, which are good memories now.
That reminds me of a recurring dream I have and a lot of people have this dream, is realizing that in the dream that, okay, I've missed a whole semester of classes, and I've got a final I've got to take, and I've not even been to any of the classes all semester. So just that, yeah.
That's funny.
So, yeah.
I used to have dreams like that too, of oversleeping through the alarm and missing my final. And
I remember that one.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the other thing that this reminds me of is just this whole idea of the imposter syndrome, especially think for a lot of newer therapists. They worry that they don't have the credentials, or they worry that, okay, people aren't going to come to see me because they don't feel like I have the experience and all of that sort of thing. And, the truth of the matter is, like we were talking about, is people connect with people's personalities and who you are genuinely. And I think I can remember in graduate school, one of the first times we were doing our practicums and actually starting to see clients. And I remember one of our professors just saying, don't worry about what theory you're going to use or what technique you're going to use. Just go in there and be genuine and be nice to those people. That's all you have to do. And I think that a lot of that is true about marketing.
Totally. And Kay and I always talk about like that therapists really make the best marketers. And one of the things kind of being in management and leadership a lot is I'd like to take the skills that people have. And we do this as therapists too, actually, is we take the skills that people have and we say, look, you already have these skills. You could just apply them in this context. And so the beautiful thing about being therapists is we know how to join, we know how to build rapport, we totally know how to empathize, we validate, we reflect, and we summarize. Marketing is really no different.
Right.
It really is no different. And so that's what we do, is we just help remind therapists of the amazing tools that you guys already possess, and then we just put them and plug them into a different context. That's it. Yep. I mean, it's simple, but it is.
Yeah. So it's simple, but sometimes difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some other things that are really kind of standing out for you all as you go through your journey with private practice startup and just in your own practices? What are some themes of things that are just kind of bubbling up for you? Hope that question makes sense.
I think so, and I guess we'll answer it however it makes sense. And we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
So what's coming up for the private practice startup? We've actually celebrated our 2 years back in June, and we released our 100th podcast episode. So still going strong.
Congratulations!
Thank you. And so our next birth into the world is really the marketing e-course and coaching, which will be released this fall, so fall of 2018. So we're super excited about that. We've been doing small groups and one-on-ones for quite a while. So we're really excited to put that together to really just help therapists in that area. So we're going to continue with that and kind of run with it. We also have our paperwork. So we've worked for over a decade of creating attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and we still do that to assure that therapists are properly protected. So those are our two main areas. I know I can kind of probably speak for both Kate and I is, over time we begin to look at narrowing down our private practices a little bit, really focusing on this aspect of the private practice startup, and continuing to create the dream lives that we desire. So,
right.
Yeah. Kate, you want to add anything? Did I speak for both of us?
I mean, we're really honing in on those two areas of, helping clinicians with their branding and marketing, being able to work with the clients that they love most to fill their practices with them and live the life they've always dreamed of. So helping them with those different pieces, and then the paperwork. And then in my own private practice, we're actually expanding the group practice. We have a new location, which I'm very excited about. I'm actually been meeting with my architects. We're doing this whole build out. So I get to build out the space exactly how I would dream for it to be. And I just picked all the design elements, and I'm having so much fun with it all. I'm having lots of fun until the bills come in, right?
Yeah.
But we're all really excited about that. So we've got lots of great, exciting things happening with the private practice startup and with baby therapy as well. So
oh, wow.
Life is good.
Yeah. It, I was just thinking, it sounds like you all are really in very similar stages that I am with my own practice. I just bought the building that I'm in now last summer.
Move.
And so,
that's awesome.
I never would have dreamed that I would have done that when I first started out, that I would have gotten to, it was in the back of my mind, but the fact that it's come into reality. And I think, one of the things that I hear from you all is that, that I think is true for those of us that have been doing it a while, is don't be afraid to dream too big with your practice. And, one of the things that Mike Michalowicz said, just, and this is fresh on my mind because just did the interview with him, he was talking about, make it, he said, if you follow your dream, follow your passion, and you follow your why, so to speak, the right size business or the right size practice will find you. And I think that is what I'm hearing from you all as well. And you've gotten, one of the things I love about this space and that I jumped into, and just 2016, this whole private practice consulting space and coaching and all of that, is how collaborative we all are. I've just, and it's just so refreshing because it's as people hear from me, and I'm sure they hear from you as well, the part of the angst around marketing your practice and building your practices is that this myth that there's not the scarcity mentality, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and that there's a lot of abundance out there, and that there's more than enough clients that want and need our help out there for us. And it's just a matter of creating the things that are needed for them to be able to find us.
100%.
Totally.
Yeah, we're totally in alignment with those beliefs as well.
Yeah.
Well, and like what you said, Gordon, is really building the relationships. And Kate and I agree so much. We're so grateful for our space and the collaboration. And it's just really beautiful and abundant and kind. And, even within our space, like everyone has their niche and their ideal client. And the great thing about that, it's like, we'll get an email like, hey, I want to build a group practice. We're like, that's not us. Like, let's refer you to Maureen Warbach. She's all about group. So and it makes it easy because we can support people in totality as a collective community.
Right.
And there, and it's fun. Like Kate and I have just really enjoyed collaborating with everybody in our space. And we love sending little fun gifts. It's just, it's fun. It's so fun.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's here I'll throw a big dream out to you guys that I've thought about, and maybe we can collaborate and think about this. But I was thinking it'd be awesome to have a conference where a huge super conference where everybody comes together that's in this space, and we all do our own thing, but everybody benefits from it from that conference. So
I think many of us think that, and interestingly enough, we created an outline like a few years ago.
Oh wow!
So I think it ought to be
it ought to be a cruise conference. I think that would be awesome.
There you go.
That sounds
expensible cruise conference. I like it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Kate and Katie, I want to be respectful of your time. I know you guys had mentioned you've got sessions and other things going on today. Tell folks again how they can get in touch with you and where they can find your stuff. And I'll put in the show notes links to all of your stuff so that people can get it through there as well. But Tell them how to get in touch with you.
Thank you. Yes, check us out at privatepracticestartup.com, and we'll share with Gordon the links for the A to Z cheat sheet so you guys can download that and also walk through that 5-day practice building sequence where we share a lot of value and a lot of different assignments and tips and tricks and hacks so you can have your dream private practice. And then we'll also share with you the link for our marketing e-course, and I guess the paperwork too, since we talked about that. You can just throw those in your show notes.
Sure.
If you ever want to contact us directly, we're at Kate, Kate, at theprivatepracticestartup.com.
And it goes to both of us.
It does.
Okay. All right.
We are one email. And the other thing too is join us December 2nd, because Gordon will be on our podcast. So that was when his podcast will be released. So you want to
all right. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Can't wait. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. Well, as one of my good friends always says, it's not, how does he put it? He says, it ain't worth doing if it isn't fun. And so this was fun. This was worth doing. So I'm just so glad that we were able to connect, and that Katie reached out to me. It's funny because I was telling her I was just before reaching out to you all. So the stars aligned, and then we had ESP or something. I don't know.
That's so awesome. I love it.
Yeah. So thank you guys for being here today. And again, check out their stuff at the Private Practice Startup. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Gordon.
Well, folks, I hope this has been a helpful podcast episode for you. I know I just learned so much from Kate and Katie, and I'm, again, just grateful to them for reaching out and being on the podcast and being able to collaborate with them on some things like this. Do check them out at their website is privatepracticestartup.com, and check out their resources there as well. They've got some great stuff. And so, folks, I hope that this episode went a little longer than usual, but I didn't want to cut it short. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Do go over and check out the mastermind group. Like I said in the beginning, we've got some more spots left in that. Practiceoftherapy.com /mastermind. The other thing too is check out my Facebook page. I'm going to be announcing the winner to the giveaway that I did from the previous weeks. And that's the Clockwork book and the Profit First book from Mike Michalowicz. And so if you'll check out that on my Facebook page, I'll have an announcement there, a little video announcement of who the winner is. The two winners for that contest. So take care, folks. I hope that the rest of your week and your weekend is a great one whenever you might be listening to this. And do go over and subscribe to the Practice of Therapy podcast and leave your remarks and a little bit of a review there. I always appreciate that wherever you might be listening to it. Take care, folks. You have been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer. Please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com for more information, resources, and tools to help you in starting, building, and growing your private practice. If you haven't already, please sign up to receive the free Private Practice Startup Guide at practiceoftherapy.com. The information in this podcast is intended to be accurate and authoritative concerning the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, guests, our producers are rendering legal, accounting, or clinical advice. If you need a professional, you should find the right person for that.